that are good friends of good people would lay down their life to protect justice. Those soldiers, Jason Patrick, Jason Turner, good men that would lay down their life to fight for this country. But it troubles me when I see us blaming the wrong people. And why did I bring up police officers and soldiers? For the most part, they follow orders. And with most of them, it is their belief that the orders that they follow are lawful and legal. And they execute them. Now, I believe that most of them know it wouldn't be morally just to walk up and shoot a baby in a foreign land that we happen to be engaged in a military action to kill a baby. I would think that people know that that's not a lawful order. And the same thing with some police officers. But there are bad cops and there are bad soldiers. So we'll just say that that's together. But for the most part, they're good men and women. We will get mad with them. Remember how the troops were treated when they came back from Vietnam? Spat on them. Now, my heart is for the veterans, especially the ones that go to war and get broken. What has that got to do with all of this? The point I'm trying to make is we will get mad with our police officers for following the orders that they're given that were made into law. We will get mad with the troops because they're over there fighting wars that they were ordered to go and fight. And the people we should be mad with are the ones that we vote for and elect that put them in those positions. Now, this sheriff is probably following what he believes is a lawful order. Now, in the back of his mind, I don't know the man personally. Maybe he might be saying, this ain't right, but it's the law. If I want to keep my job and continue to feed my family, I've got to do it. But how do we turn that tide? We turn that tide by doing what you did, standing up and saying no, and doing what I'm doing, trying to bring attention to how we change the room. And how do we change the room, people? We stand up and we start saying no to the people that we continue to elect time and time again that are doing nothing but screwing this country into the ground. And that is both on the Democratic side and the Republican side. We had better start realizing what lies beneath. Your case, while prolific in terms of the people that it has touched, the people that have come out here to support you, is by no means the only isolated incident. We have people, the BLM, from my point of view, they're an adversarial arm of the government. But so is the IRS. The IRS has literally caused people to commit suicide over debts that they owe to the IRS. Now, you are besieged by a tyrannical government that sent armed men that would have taken lives, American lives, over cattle that you legally own and are rightfully have been grazing. Now, whatever issues the courts may have with you, they should have gone into state court just like they would expect any of us to do. If I had a problem with you and I felt that you owed me 5 herd of cattle and I just went up on your land and bagged my truck up and loaded them up, they'd have me down there in a Hooskow, 90 going north. You broke the law. But it's okay for them to do it. We better wake up and start understanding it.
But one of the things that people mandated the sheriff to do was disarm those people, those agents that were over there, and disarm them. If the sheriff did his job and disarmed them, we, the people, when they had to go push them out of the country, when they had to face those guns because they'd been disarmed. And when they did face those guns, the county sheriff allowed them to exit. They went right out on Highway 15 north, and send them up through the city of Mesquite, through Arizona, into across the border into Utah, and never took no guns away from them. Now, what if you had stole the candy bar out of a convenience store? They'd have chased you down in Mesquite and arrested you. If you got to Arizona, they'd chase you down. If you got into Utah, they'd have chased you down until they caught you and rubbed your head in the gravel. But they didn't. There was like 200 armed men with military type armory walked right out of there and crossed across 3 states and several towns and a bunch of counties, and they disappeared. And nobody even the media never even asked where did they go.
I can explain that phenomenon.
That is a phenomenal to me.
It is phenomenal. It's called carrying water. Carrying water. I want y'all to remember that. And it's a product of controlled opposition. Now, what is controlled opposition? Controlled opposition is where our government has people that are in there that we support and rally behind all the time because they tell us that they're working for us. Now, if you're working for me, but bad legislation continues to pass time and time again, either you're lousy at your job or I'm stupid to believe that just because you say you're working for me and I continue to take it up the rear and ain't nothing getting better, something must be wrong with me. But that is what we have. You got guys in D.C. that will say, you got your sheriff that will say, I'm working for you. I'm protecting your rights. But bad legislation passes time and time again. If a football player or a coach of a team of football players, if he continues to have losing seasons, that coach gets fired. Why? Because he is ineffective. We have had legislation after legislation after legislation, bad legislation, passed time and time again, even up to Obamacare. Yet they say they are fighting for me. They're not fighting for me, sir. They certainly weren't fighting for you. If they were given an order to disarm the agents and didn't, they were carrying water and it was controlled opposition. They made you think they were fighting for you by getting them to leave, but they failed to disarm them. Politicians make us think they are fighting for us, yet the bad legislation continues to get passed, and who ends up paying in the end always is us. So I don't want another politician to tell me he's working for me if bad legislation got passed on his watch and he didn't warn me beforehand. It's just like Edward Snowden. He shouldn't have had to do what he did for us to find out that our government was spying on us. Our representatives should have told us first. We should have had some say-so. But the bottom line in all of it, Mr. Bundy, and one of the reasons why I'm out here is not to campaign, but it's to show my support to you. Why? Because you stood up and said, I'll fight for myself because I have a Constitution, I have a Declaration of Independence, and I have a Bill of Rights. People already paid in blood for this. They gave me the tools that I need already to stand against the tyrannical government. And other folk came and stood with you. That is what America used to be. That is what America is going to have to return to. Else, we will find more and more of our rights being taken away from us, being eroded day by day. When Harry Reid said those protesters are domestic terrorists and it's not over yet, all he was doing was laying the groundwork for them to be able to use indefinite detention, which was passed under NDAA of 2011. If you're a domestic terrorist, let us go and detain you and give you a trial so that you can fight what we know we're doing is wrong and violates your constitutional protections.
And I know that they set us up, they set we the people up. Now I want to make this picture a little bit before we took this freedom back. You know, on all these hills here, there were snipers, there was high-tech cameras, on all these roads, even this area here where we are, was closed areas. People couldn't enjoy our public land. And then they created, I call them big men. Signs on it. It said what? First Amendment.
First free speech area.
Free speech area. Exercise your freedom.
In the pig pen.
In the pig pen. So they had two little compound up there where they had the army. Guess how many handcuffs they had? They had a couple of boxes of handcuffs with these plastic zip locks, and they were put them together. And there was a couple of boxes. They was figuring on arresting at least 100 of us.
There's a thing I call containment and control. Containment put you in the pig pen.
Sure.
Control you with the threat of arrest or arrest. That's interesting because it reminds me of what they did to the senators and the congressmen that allowed the government to pass legislation that allowed them to spy on us without a warrant. What did they do? For containment, they told our representatives and senators, shut up. You can't talk about this. If you do, you'll be guilty of whatever House rules or orders that they had put in place. You'll be guilty of violating that. That is the reason that many of the congressmen and senators stated as to why we weren't warned about what Eric Snowden told us. And I said to him, well, sir, you violated your right then. How can you allow an executive order or a House rule or any legislation that's contrary to the Constitution to keep your mouth shut when it comes to protecting the Constitution that you swore an oath to obey? See, I don't understand that. And so that, again, was containment and control. But Edward Snowden did their job for them. He warned us. Now we know. The legislation was passed, and we didn't find out until after the fact, and we wouldn't even know about it if it wasn't for Edward Snowden. See, these are those what lies beneath things that many of us miss, and I call it low-hanging fruit. You know, a lot of people will get caught up into conspiracy theories, but I understand, and I make full use of low-hanging fruit. What took place out here was low-hanging fruit. People, and I say this in all seriousness, the only reason that it wasn't a bloodbath is because people had camera phones, taking pictures, video phones, and people were packing heat. When you stand up and you say no, that is something that the government has not been able to contain first or control. The only thing they could have done was send it into a situation of out of control, and then the whole world would have seen it. You want to know of another situation like that in history? During the Civil Rights era, when Martin Luther King marched with the protesters, and they sicked the dogs, billy clubs, and water hoses on them. The whole world saw it. You see, we had the TV out there. The whole world saw it, and they saw the backlash. This is why it is so important to tell the truth about what the government is doing. Because you know what, Mr. Bundy? When you expose the truth, people tend to do things a little bit differently. And that's what we need. We need an awakening. We need to expose the corruption. That's why I support you. That's why I'm out here.
And I appreciate that. That's why when I see you and heard you talk, and I started to think, well, hey, there's a man that I can communicate with. He understands enough about the Constitution, enough about our freedoms and liberty. He cares about we the people. He's not caring about himself. He's not caring about the political thing. He's caring about something that's very important. Or he's caring about each one of us individually. And to me, that's what the Constitution is all about. That's what the gospel of Jesus Christ is all about. And to me, they're the same. I mean, the individual is what's important. And then he understands that being in a central government is what, with unlimited power, that's what our Revolutionary War was fought over. And that war was won. And those people, we the people fought that war, and we the people created our Constitution, which is the inspired Constitution, the best Constitution in the world. And that Constitution is the blueprint that we need to be following today here in across America. And that Constitution and these free agency and freedom and liberty issues is what's bringing the interest of the world. I mean, people in this world are interested in liberty and freedom. And what did you? What the other thing you said? Why they're interested? Well, I can remember. You said the other worlds or other countries in this world are interested in this issue because they're tired of being beat down by the big government too. You know, they're tired of being second place to the United States government. And we can understand that. I mean, if say another country come over here and started to tell us what to do like we tell them, we would rebel.
Let's not forget when Ron Paul was asked about foreign policy. I believe it was South Carolina, it may have been North Carolina. He was booed. He quoted the Golden Rule.
Yeah.
Whole room full of Republicans now. He quoted the Golden Rule. Why don't we treat other people the way we want to be treated? And he was booed for that. I would not be doing service if I did not respond to something that kind of brought me into this to begin with. That's on the issue of race. People have tried to paint you as a racist for expressing things that I've talked about in the black community for the last 8 years. When I first started making YouTube videos, part of my motivation was to get black people to understand you don't have to be the victim of our government. Because that is one, you go into the black community, that has always been one of their gripes. It's the government, it's the man that's keeping me down. But now they got a black president, and things in the black community hadn't gotten any better overall. You listen to the people up there in Detroit and Chicago, they'll bear testimony to that. One guy from Detroit said, Mr. Obama, why don't you just quit? Because you ain't made life no better for us. So to keep the issue, the true issue of what's going on out here over liberty and freedom, they take the fact that you use the word color, and try to run with it and make it into something else. Somebody called and told me that Mr. Obama made the reference where anything that starts out with Negro can't be good. Little history lesson. In Spanish, I think Negro is black, so it just means black. So I ain't got a problem with the term Negro. And secondly, anything that starts out with African American, and for those of you that don't know me, if you look at my videos, I hate the term African American. I'm an American citizen just like every one of you out here. And when somebody looks at me and refers to me as African American, you have subdivided my liberty and freedom. My forefathers and ancestors fought and died for this country too. In the Civil War, they fought in civil rights. So we've been here, neither I nor my father or his father before him has set foot in Africa. I ain't lost nothing in Africa. Africa is a continent anyway. It doesn't even offer citizenship status. So if you're going to call somebody a hyphenated name or whatever, at least let it be from a country, not the whole doggone continent. So African American is about the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Now, press, y'all take that and run with it. So I just wanted to go ahead and deal with that. People need to understand this is about liberty and freedom. The press makes race matter to us because we allow them to. It is a tool in their toolbox. And as long as we continue to focus on that, we won't see that we're being robbed on a daily basis of our liberties and freedoms by a government full of people that we think are working for us, and there are some that we know aren't. Harry Reid is one of them.
Okay, now, I'm going to try to venture here. I'll probably get in trouble.
That's all right.
But I've got a question to ask you. Martin Luther King, Reverend Martin Luther King, had a dream. Okay, so he had a dream. Mrs. Park took her place in the front of the bus. Okay, so we understand her place was in the front of the bus. And that when Cliven Bundy comes along and looks at this picture here, Martin Luther King, a dream, and her place in front of the bus, I said, no, she didn't fulfill his dream. What was his dream?
His dream was that one day all men of all colors could join hands together and sing.
Okay.
That was the ultimate that he was looking for, where we were judged not by the color of our skin, but by, now let me hear what I'm about to say now, but by the content of character. By the content of character. We all have to be good people. And you know, some of us can be downright bricks. Judge people based on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. That was his dream in a nutshell.
Okay, now let me see if I got his dream right. Okay, so what you said, and I said he had a dream, and I said that was the part where her right seat on the bus. And I'm saying that wasn't his dream. What his dream was that she could have any seat in the bus. It was not what he's dreaming. She could have any seat in the bus, and then there's no question about it. And isn't that what we're really after when we talk about equal rights and all this? That everybody can have the seat in any place in that bus, and that's what Cliven and Bundy say.
If people judge you by the content of character, then you automatically, as a given, have equal access. If you are of good character. Now, there are some people that don't deserve some things that will infringe upon your personal freedoms. If somebody walks into my house and they proceed to curse and raise hell, I kick them out. They don't deserve access to my home. I've made a judgment call based on their character and kicked them out of my house. But anybody that is well behaved and understands common decency and respect, I don't have a problem with them coming into my home, sitting down and supping with me. Martin Luther King was at a time where just because I'm black, I don't want you in that front seat of the bus. Not because you're a female, because you're black. That's the difference. He was trying to get, and that's what people saw. Again, race is a tool used by the politicians and by press. They want us to see color so that we stay divided. You're the white man, you said the word Negro, I got to hate you because you got to be racist.
That's the one piece they're going to play on CNN, Derrick. That's what CNN's going to play, that right there. CNN will cut that right out of the video. That's what CNN's going to play.
Let me go back at it. I can't see any difference between you and me. I can't see anything wrong with you, or I can't see that you're any different. Really, I can't.
Well, I don't have a problem with seeing differences in skin color. I just don't use that to determine whether or not you're a worthy soul or not. I'm going to base it on how you treat me, the content of your character. If you treat me with respect, you'll receive respect.
Well, let's go back to our Lord Jesus Christ. Do you think he could see any color difference between us?
Jesus didn't allow differences to dictate how he treated people. There was under Judeo law, you could be stoned to death for committing adultery. There was a woman brought to him accused of committing adultery. Now, here's what people ignore or they don't catch in this. Not once did he tell them not to stone her to death for committing adultery. Not once. Because he knew that that was the law. He knew it was a law. He knew this is how it goes. Instead, he made them look at themselves and he asked them, okay, I'll be your huckleberry. Whichever one of you has no sin, you go on and cast the first one. I'll probably even throw one too, because I know I ain't got none in me. What did they do? They dropped their rocks and they walked away. Does that mean that Jesus was condoning adultery? No, it doesn't. It meant that we need to deal with the planks in our own eyes first before we start trying to condemn and pass judgment on someone else. So even though she was accused of adultery, he still did not turn his back on her and tell him, yeah, go ahead and stone her. She violated the law. He just told them, look at yourself first. But now what did he say to the woman? And here's the proof that he didn't condone adultery. He said to her, go and sin no more. You know, he convicted, he allowed the other people to convict themselves, and he gave her some life advice to live by. But people miss that part of the story, and they don't understand that. So it didn't matter who you was in the eyes of Jesus. There's always hope. There's always a way to change and become better. And that is what Jesus brought to us. He brought us a better way.
And I understand what you're saying. And the way I believe his gospel brought is always that we start from here and go up, go better. And no matter where we are, no matter what we've done, the gospel has nothing to do with what we did. It has to do from this point forward. He wants every soul to go up and to be better and to do better and to treat each other better and to forgive each other. And he tells us how to forgive each other. Everything he says and all of his gospel is to better us from the point that we learn. And at that point we go up, always go up, and the whole world can go up. Look how much better we could be if we just look how much better we could be if we just forgive our wives and our husbands and our kids forgive each other. Just that one principle. Look how much better the world would have. And just in a few hours, it can change in a few hours.
But you know what? Change always starts with you. If you continue to elect politicians that are telling you that they are going to make the world a better place for you, if you empower them to go to Washington, D.C., or state or local government, you're going to keep getting the same things you have been getting. Bent over a barrel. Use your imagination. Let this change be in you instead. I am going to only support and vote for people that are committed to 100% of the Constitution, 100% of the time. Christian people ought to be able to understand this. Revelations 3, Jesus is talking to, I believe it was the Laodicean church. I would rather you be hot or cold. Lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out my mouth. Hot or cold, I at least know what I'm working with. Okay, I got a spot for you down in hell. You know, I see you up there at the pearly gates. You know what you're working with.
But not only that, he wants us to repent and be forgiven. How's he going to forgive somebody that's warned? I mean, if you was a sinner and he would know that who you were, and he could forgive you, but how is he going to forgive somebody that's on the middle of the fence? And that's where most of our politicians is. That's where our laws and everything are in the middle of the fence. How's he going to judge us?
He can't. That's why it has to be all in or all out. As a Christian, you have to be all in. If you're not all in and you're on the fence, don't waste your time. I'm telling you right now, quit. Just like they got told President Obama, just quit. And if you're going to vote for somebody, you need to vote for somebody that is all in on the Constitution. I got guys that I said I wasn't going to talk about that. There are guys I have heard that are bragging that they have a 90% constitutional voting record. What if the other 10% violate 40% of your constitutional protections? Is that okay with you? Then why would you vote for him? Why? I don't understand it. Can you explain it to me?
You know, we can't see the flagpole, but I want you to see it when you go up here. There's two flagpoles up there. One of them was threaded with the United States flag on top, and the state flag, and the county flag. And the other one is threaded with "We the People" on the top, and the county government flag, and the state government flag, and the United States government flag. I'd ask you, which is threaded correctly according to the Constitution?
The latter.
Okay, and why would that be?
Because we have a representative, or we're supposed to have a representative form of government for the people, of the people, by the people. I tell people, I am the servant, you are the master. The power belongs to the people. We have failed in that we have yielded our power to those in D.C. How do we take that back? Right now we still have the ballot. We got camera phones, and we still have the right to bear arms. Let us use the ballot while we still can, before they take even that away from you. The power belongs to the people, not to those in D.C.
Another thing that I felt like you made a mistake here, and I know it's the media's fault. You're saying, dealing with the cattle, you're saying that the BLM turned the cattle loose, or that they didn't, we the people didn't actually, maybe I misunderstood, but you know what I wanted to make sure you understood, is this group of people that was here, they went up against the BLM army.
Yep.
And they pushed the BLM army out of the state of Nevada, and then they opened the gates, and the cattle come out. And you know, the media makes it sound like the BLM backed off and opened the gates and everything's just fine. No, that was we, the people, did all of those things. I think there's one right here. Or did you help open the gate? Sit right up on that chair and tell us a little bit about what happened. Yeah, this is my sister, my baby sister.
Okay.
It's nice to meet you.
Likewise. Nice to meet you.
Her name's Chrissy. Tell him. I don't want you to go into big detail. Who else was there on that front line? Were you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was anybody else on that front line? There's another one. Okay. I don't want you to go into big detail, but tell us, gentlemen, just a little bit how it felt being in that position with the federal army pushing their guns down your throat, and then actually how you reacted to that type of a thing. So he has a little first account.
Well, all I can say is fear came into me quite a few times. I had my little girl with me also. And as soon as that fear came into me, a peace came over me. And I can testify there was a higher power there for us to be able to face those guns. But I knew without a doubt that we were being watched over, that this was so powerful. And when they finally said, you know, we're going to let the cattle free, all of us got on our knees right there at the table. And there's no words to express the feeling that was there, and no words to express how it felt to open those gates and let those animals free. And it wasn't easy to see the shape that a lot of those animals were in when we got up there, but it was sure empowering too. Because we, the people, because we united what we was able to accomplish. Standing together And with God by our side, the power and the strength and the braveness that we had. And I can't say that, fear didn't come into my eyes, into my head, but the minute I would feel that fear, a peace would come over me, and a strength, and it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful, united feeling, and that's what we need, to stand together and be united. And anything's impossible. With God, everything's impossible. I don't know if that's what you want me to, you were asking.
Well, I just wanted to get the feeling of really somebody that was there that really...
I never addressed that issue. The only thing that I spoke to was the BLM and their overreach, and that there are some other things lying beneath the lies that they were telling as to why they wanted to confiscate your cattle, which was my concern. I want to expose the corruption. I want other people in this country to see your example of the possibilities that we already have in those 3 documents that we talked about earlier. In, was it Colorado, where they recalled the 2 representatives for messing with the guns? So we have the power. We just have to, as you just said, unite and act upon it. And stop voting for those people that claim they are fighting for you but are ineffective, and stop voting for those that are not fighting for you and that are up there taking away your liberties and your freedoms. Also, I would admonish you to recognize that both parties, I call them the royals in the parties. They are the elitists. They are the ones that think that they know better than you. They are the ones that stood up like Mr. Harry Reid and called the supporters of Mr. Bundy's domestic terrorists. They are the ones that will say, this is not over yet, implying that we're coming back.
Harry Reid even added another word to it. He said domestic violence terrorist. He added the word violent to it. In other words, he wasn't good enough for this domestic terrorist.
There was no violence. There was peace. There was peace and no violence on our end. But a whole week before that, there was violence all around us. I mean, we had 3 snipers pointing at us up on this hill every time we were down here. I went to Bunkerville and there was a convoy of them. I was coming on this 2-lane. They played chicken with me, almost knocked me off the road. I went into the gravel. I mean, you didn't dare get off on pull over and step out. You heard what happened to one of them that did, that was taken.
I saw the video.
Yeah, and it was, I'll never take my freedom for granted. I did before, and after having your freedom taken away and not being able to even pull off on the side of the road or go down these roads that we've grown up on, it was not a good feeling. I will never take that for granted again.
Nor shall I. Nor shall I.
Yeah.
Amen.
A lot of eyes have been open.
Let me ask a question. I live in the country, and this is home to me, and I spent one year in LA, so I do know a little bit about the city. But I want to talk to you. How do we, talking about you and I and our way we think and the way we think the Constitution should operate, how are we to help the people that are in these cities and inner cities and in these ghettos and stuff? How are we to help them? Well, I can see where county government, closest government to people and all that can help me and my people around here and the family and all this stuff. But how are we going to help those people? Those people are in trouble. They're enslaved in their condition. And how are we going to? And it's not one race. race, it's a whole bunch of races, and they're in that situation.
I have videos that I have made where I talk to both whites and blacks. I've said to blacks that the experiment worked. Illegitimacy is at an all-time high in the black community. Many black women don't even bother to get married. They just have children. Our kids, high school dropout rate amongst black males is off the chain. We are 13% of the population, but in upwards of 60% of urban prison populations. All of this is a result of the experiment started under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the New Deal, that basically re-enslaved much of the black community to a point of government dependence. I also tell white people, don't laugh, you're next. It's already worked on black America. Now they're coming after white America. And you don't have to believe me, you don't have to take me seriously. But if you just look around, you see all this talk about gun control. Chicago has some of the greatest gun violence in the world and the strictest gun control here in this country. Yet, black on black gun violence is off the chart. Has not gotten better in spite of gun control. So one has to ask this question. If gun control doesn't work in Chicago, how is it going to work for the whole world? It's not about the whole world. It's not about violence. It is about keeping you from being able to defend yourself against the tyranny of the government. Who owns most of the guns legally in this country? Middle-class white America. You're more than 50% of the population. Therefore, you own most of the guns legally. Gun control is for you. Gun control is not for crook control, because crooks don't give a damn about gun control laws. They're crooks. That's what they do. To answer your question, people like us that understand liberty and freedom, we have to stop voting for people that take away access in exchange for handing out giveaways. When we stop electing them and start bringing equal access and opportunities back to America, like for instance, getting rid of trade agreements that allow for companies to offshore jobs overseas. They used to be American jobs. Getting the government out of the way of business. Now, from what you were telling me earlier, they offered you a deal where they were going to put somebody in charge of telling you how many of your cows you'd be allowed to keep. I've talked about government ain't got no business in the farming business, let alone the cattle business. We need government out of the way, less regulations. If you get government out of the way and allow the American to go out and innovate and build things, if you get government out of the way with excessive regulations and taxation, if you get government out of our educational system and allow people in the local communities to determine what's best for their children in terms of education, opportunities will return to this country and people will once again have equal access to those opportunities. And here's the thing that amazes me that we can't understand. All those that are in favor of amnesty for illegal immigrants, if that happens, let's say tomorrow, there won't be a job for your teenagers at McDonald's. That's just the truth of the matter. Our social services will probably implode. We just don't have the resources to allow it. What we need to start working on, sir, is getting those people in D.C. that implement those policies that enslave people. And now, again, they're not just working on black America. They're working on the whole of America, which is why you have become one in a long line of farmers in this area that are falling victim to government intrusion. That's the only solution, sir. We got to stop electing them. We got to start firing them.
You know, 20 years ago, I said the only way we're going to get rid of these bureaucrats would be to quit paying them. But 20 years ago, we didn't get rid of them, and we've paid them for 20 years, and now we're $17 trillion in debt. I was right. If we'd have got rid of them 20 years ago, we wouldn't be $17 trillion in debt, but we didn't, and now we're $17 trillion in debt, and we're still paying them wages, and we're still going to retire them, and we still have medical programs, and we still can't afford them, and what are we going to do?
It's time to send somebody in the room that's going to change it. That's going to go in with a flashlight and a whistle and a broom.
What do you want to know about the ranch? Let's talk about the ranch. Let's get right down to business now.
Why do you think they want you out of business?
Well, you know, I think, and I might be wrong, but I think our government, or these bureaucracies, and basically BLM and Park Service and these type of people, it's a general government. They wanted to prove that they had unlimited power in a sovereign state, where they didn't recognize the sovereign system. So what they did is they said, we don't recognize Nevada sovereignty, we don't really recognize Nevada law, we don't recognize Nevada public land, we don't recognize Clark County Sheriff power, and so we, the government, the bureaucracy, are going to exercise unlimited power. And they come out here and they locked up the access to the land. They took over the sheriff's job by impersonating the sheriff. They went to robbing and plundering my private property, and they went to abusing my children and friends, and they were exercising and showing that they had unlimited power and was going to do whatever they damn pleased. And then all of a sudden, the people rose up and come forward, and their party was over. And it's still over, and it's going to stay over. But so my thinking is, yeah, there was the United States government was proven to the people of the United States and to the world that they had unlimited power, and this was a good example that it crushed me and my operation here, and it didn't matter how many my family members or how many cattle or how much private property or anything was destroyed. They was here to destroy me for that purpose. Now there are all kinds of other theories, the Harry Reid things, and on and on. And maybe they have a part here, but I have no proof of that.
Well, there was some documentation online that they tried to get rid of, but some people were able to get screenshots of that. I believe, based on what I've seen and what I've researched myself, that there are those things underneath, ulterior motives for putting you out of business. And I also believe and accept what you just explained about them exercising that unlimited power. That was another test of the waters. Connecticut, registration of assault rifles and high-capacity magazines, a blue state, making it more pliable to force these people to register their guns or become instant felons where they won't be able to own guns. The sheriff in California quoted, saw the video, words out of his own mouth, our officers don't carry weapons as a defensive means. We carry them to show power and force so that we can do our jobs more effectively. Well, sir, what about the people that were at the Bundy Ranch? Theirs was used merely as a defensive means to stave off the government. So your added statement that guns are not a defensive weapon is total bunk. Because it was the fact that you were able to defend yourselves out here that's kept the government at bay. So these are things, and then Boston, the Boston bombing. 2 crooks locked down the whole city. Two crooks, they locked down the whole city. So these are just things that we need to be mindful of, sir. Because if we don't stop it, it'll continue to happen. But when it does happen, we need people like yourself to stand up and say no. And I tell you this, after the 20th, I will be back so that I can spend more time out here and learn about what's going on and get the word out to the people, because it's important that the people know. And I'm sure they all appreciate the fact that you're taking time so that they can hear for themselves what we call free press and not yellow press.
He's got a pretty good grip there.
Thumb's gone.
That's all right. That's all right. I can hold that hand. So good.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, saw your YouTube. I had to come here.
Okay.
Can we get a picture before you leave?
Sure, absolutely. What are you asking me, Barbara? Where you want to get this?
Phil, I'm all right. Been out trying to make a living for a while. I'd come back and make sure you guys still had her together.
We're still going round and round.
Good.
Can I ask you a question? So the sheriff's now basically saying that it's not over for like the militiamen. What do you think their next move is there?
It's not over for the militia.
Yeah, he's saying that they have questions that the guys that pointed guns or whatever, that they're now domestic terrorists or whatever they want to question them. What's your comments on that? If the guns were in defense and they aren't recognizing it.
As far as I knew, there were very little guns, but I was happy the militia was there, and they positioned themselves unknown to me. I didn't know the militia was there, but when they positioned themselves, they was right on. They had those citizens covered, and it looked to me like that if they would have, the bureaucrat agents would have pulled the trigger, that those militia would have took care of them really fast. And gee whiz, it would have been terrible if they wouldn't have been there. And maybe the militia is the only deterrence that kept them from pulling the triggers. I don't know how well they understood how well the militia was stationed, but they were stationed at the vantage point above them on the bridge there, and they definitely had them covered. And so they was taking care of the back with the citizen in a perfect manner. And the only thing I can say is when I seen that, after worrying about the people not having any protection, I was very happy and very proud of the militia and the stand and how they positioned themselves and how they were in position to take care of we the people. And they've been taking care of we the people from the point that they arrived until this point now, and we're still not comfortable without them. So, I hope they stay. I'm not telling them to stay. I never ask them to come, but I hope they do stay for a while. Maybe a year or two.
One other question. The sheriffs on the news had said that it was a very dangerous position because any move and that would have been a bloodbath would have been fired upon. And I was wondering if you could contrast that to the days prior when there was no militia here, and the only ones who did fire a taser or any type of force at all was the BLM folks. How do you contrast those two things? Because nobody was hurt, injured, or died when the militia was there, but when the militia wasn't there, you had sons that were injured, correct? Isn't that correct?
There's a lot of difference. Before the militia was here, we had harassment, we had but really violence going on with my property, my range improvements, my livestock, and even my children and my neighbors' children. And not only children. I mean, these are grown men that they're beating up and putting in the ground, and older women. And that was the kind of abuse that was going on. Now, when the militia showed up, all of that ended. And we remember, you know, one thing that's sort of scary here is when you start talking about maybe our Constitution failing us. Our federal government wasn't protecting us. There's an oath that they take, and our state government wasn't protecting us, and our county government wasn't protecting us. It was left to we the people to protect ourselves. And thank heavens that the militia would come and stand with we the people, and made that big difference. And then all of a sudden we have some freedom, liberty, and access to our land, and our property is being sort of patched and brought back to normal. And without the militia, none of this would happen. We'd still be in a mess.
All right. I appreciate you. Thanks.
Derrick Grayson has Mr. Bundy back in his racing screen. I said, now this is just like the press to take something, and that was not what the video was about. The video was about the overreach of government, and I said what Mr. Bundy articulated as it relates to the black community is nothing more than what I have said, and that being the truth. So when the AJC did that, I said, I need to go out here myself personally to set the record straight and let people get some free press. Because, see, I despise what I call the yellow press. People that will only take parts of a story and deliberately slant it to their own benefit, completely ignoring the true nature of what was being said. That's why I came out here. I'm here. I'm going to tell the truth about it. And I've got the video recorded, so if people want to go and try and cut and twist it up, it's just more low-hanging fruit for me to put out there for the American people to see that the press, the yellow press, doesn't give a damn about the truth anymore. And all that we fought for to have a free press, we've now been reduced to this. Major media outlets engaged in smear campaigns. And I think it's deplorable.
I haven't changed this.
Yeah, we got some information somewhere.
Were y'all here too? Did y'all record the interview?
Just got here about 10 minutes.
Oh, you just got here 10 minutes ago. Okay.
All right, then, Barbie, you need information. Move to.
I think in my camera bag, I get it.
Okay.
If they're ready with you.
Yes.
Jennifer Kastner, Channel 13 here.
Yes.
We'd like to do another interview.
Sure.
Thank you.
Derrick, when you spoke to Cliven Bundy earlier, did he talk about what y'all would be doing later today?
No, he did not.
He did not? Oh, okay.
He said we're going to a press conference. I didn't know we were going to be doing what we just did.
Well, very good.
I need your first and last name.
Derrick Grayson, DERRICK, GRAYSON.
Position or title.
Just a guy, an American citizen.
Okay, where are you from?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, tell me why you came out.
I came out here to support Mr. Bundy and to bring some truth to the nature of what's actually taking place out here, because he's been demonized by the press, and I don't like it. And when I see people getting screwed over, if I can help, I try.
Tell me. Yes?
Yeah, I've
I
changed
don't want to
things.
go away. Okay. Tell me why you're supporting him. Why do you believe that?
Because of government overreach. I'm in a battle to wake America up to this phenomenon that I have observed. And it's threefold. One, we have politicians in D.C. who openly and actively violate our constitutional principles with no reservation, no remorse. They just do it, like indefinite detention and spying on us via the FISA court. They have no problem with Obama's executive orders, the passage of Obamacare with all of the lies that was originally told. You can keep your insurance, and of course we found that out not to be the case. The fact that those politicians allow for themselves to be excluded from Obamacare, but were going to force us to participate or be fined. So I have a problem with that type of hubris. Secondly, is politicians that claim that they are fighting for us. There are a number of them, and my thing is, if you're fighting for me, why are things not getting better? Well, because they won't warn us. They operate in a vacuum, in secrecy, and they pass bad legislation. When it's passed, we just happen to find out after the fact, like with Eric Snowden. If it hadn't been for him, we wouldn't have known. And then the third and most egregious of it all is the people responsible for those being in D.C. to do what it is that they're doing to us. And that's the American people. I'm trying to get them to wake up and stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Now, the Kool-Aid is provided on a silver platter by what I call corporate-backed media. All the news outlets that are owned by the corporations that funnel money to PACs and super PACs that provide it to the politicians who get elected, who then run ads with those media outlets, sending that money right back to the ones that they got it from in the first place. I call that the circle of loot. The problem with this Kool-Aid is the press will give us the slant on the story that they want us to have so that we are manipulated into voting for the guys that they have chosen to be our leaders in D.C. I'm trying to break that cycle. How do you break that cycle? By telling people the truth. How do you tell people the truth? I said I'm not out here to campaign. I think we need somebody in D.C. that will go into the room and expose the corruption, not operate in a vacuum. And that's going to require two things, or really three things. A person that's willing to go and name names. American people, John Doe is trying to screw you with this piece of legislation that he just brought forward. If you're in his district, fire him first. Don't let him put this legislation forward. That's how you involve the American people. That's how you empower the American people. You tell them what they're doing to them. Then dealing with the second one that I mentioned, the controlled opposition, those that say that they are working for you, but aren't really telling you anything. Expose them too. Tell them you're not interested in them not naming names anymore. You insist that they involve you in the process because they are the servants. The people are the masters. And then the third thing, and that's kind of where I come in, I'm going to tell people the truth about what's actually taking place and not something that's going to manipulate them one way or another. Mr. Bundy said what he said. There was nothing racist about what he said. Black people have been screwed over by this country, the government, and their policies, which has led to another form of enslavement. And I've already talked about the high incarceration rate, the war on, they call it the war on drugs, but it's really the war on blacks and other minorities and poor whites. Okay, our educational system sucks in many urban communities, and now they're bringing Common Core, which is going to hit the whole of America. So these are just some of the things that I want to talk about. By being here and talking with you guys, you're getting the real deal about Mr. Bundy. The man is not a racist. That's what the press wanted them. They want Americans to believe. Why? So that he is discredited and that the press and our politicians in government can keep on moving forward with what they're doing because nobody will now pay attention.
On the heels of that, a number of politicians pulled out from supporting Mr. Bundy after those comments that were perceived by some to be racist. You're choosing to still support him secondary to those comments, but you're one of the few.
It's called having cojones.
Let's talk about the armed militiamen that are here. Yesterday, Congressman Horsford reached out to Governor Sandoval and Senator Dean Heller and our local Sheriff Gillespie here, saying we need to get these militia.
They were carrying water, and it was controlled opposition. They made you think they were fighting for you by getting them to leave, but they failed to disarm them. Politicians make us think they are fighting for us, yet the bad legislation continues to get passed, and who ends up paying paying in the end always is us. So I don't want another politician to tell me he's working for me if bad legislation got passed on his watch and he didn't warn me beforehand. It's just like Edward Snowden. He shouldn't have had to do what he did for us to find out that our government was spying on us. Our representatives should have told us first. We should have had some say-so. But the bottom line in all of it, Mr. Bundy, and one of the reasons why I'm out here is not to campaign, but it's to show my support to you. Why? Because you stood up and said, I'll fight for myself because I have a Constitution, I have a Declaration of Independence, and I have a Bill of Rights. People already paid in blood for this. They gave me the tools that I need already to stand against the tyrannical government, and other folk came and stood with you. That is what America used to be. That is what America is going to have to return to. Else, we will find more and more of our rights being taken away from us, being eroded day by day. When Harry Reid said those protesters are domestic terrorists and it's not over yet, all he was doing was laying the groundwork for them to be able to use indefinite detention, which was passed under NDAA of 2011. If you're a domestic terrorist, let us go and detain you and take you to trial so that you can fight what we know we're doing is wrong and violates your constitutional protections.
And I know that they set us up, they set we the people up. Now I want to make this picture a little bit before we took this freedom back. You know, on all these that are good prisoners, good people would lay down their life to protect us.
I know soldiers, Jason Patrick, Jason Turner, good men that would lay down their life to fight for this country. But it troubles me when I see us blaming the wrong people. And why did I bring up police officers and soldiers? For the most part, they follow orders. And with most of them, it is their belief that the orders that they follow are lawful and legal. And they execute them. Now, I believe that most of them know it wouldn't be morally just to walk up and shoot a baby in a foreign land that we happen to be engaged in a military action to kill a baby. I would think that that's not a lawful order. And the same thing with some police officers. But there are bad cops and there are bad soldiers. So we'll just say that that's a given. But for the most part, they're good men and women. We will get mad with them. If you remember how the troops were treated when they came back from Vietnam, spat on them. Now, my heart is for the veterans, especially the ones that go to war and get broken. What has that got to do with all of this? The point I'm trying to make is we will get mad with our police officers for following the orders that they're given that were made into law. We will get mad with the troops because they're over there fighting wars that they were ordered to go and fight. And the people we should be mad with are the ones that we vote for and elect that put them in those positions. Now, this sheriff is probably following what he believes is a lawful order. Now, in the back of his mind, I don't know the man personally. Maybe he might be saying, this ain't right, but it's the law, and if I want to keep my job and continue to feed my family, I've got to do it. But how do we turn that tide? We turn that tide by doing what you did, standing up and saying no, and doing what I'm doing, trying to bring attention to how we change the room. And how do we change the room, people? We stand up and we start saying no to the people that we continue to elect time and time again that are doing nothing but screwing this country into the ground. And that is both on the Democratic side and the Republican side. We had better start realizing what lies beneath. Your case, while prolific in terms of the people that it has touched, the people that have come out here to support you, is by no means the only isolated incident. We have people, the BLM, from my point of view, they're an adversarial arm of the government. But so is the IRS. The IRS has literally caused people to commit suicide over debts that they owe to the IRS. Now, you are besieged by a tyrannical government that sent armed men that would have taken lives, American lives, over cattle that you legally own and are rightfully have been grazing. Now, whatever issues the courts may have with you, they should have gone into state court just like they would expect any of us to do. If I had a problem with you and I felt that you owed me 5 herd of cattle and I just went up on your land and bagged my truck up and loaded them up, they'd have me down there in a Hooskow, 90 going north. You broke the law. But it's okay for them to do it. We better wake up and start understanding that.
But you know, one of the things that people mandated the sheriff to do was disarm those people, those agents that were over there, and disarm them. You know, if the sheriff did his job and disarmed them, we the people, when they had to go push them out of the country, when they had to face those guns because they'd been disarmed, and when they did face those guns, the county sheriff allowed them to exit. They went right out on Highway 15 north, and send them up through the city of Mesquite, through Arizona, into across the border into Utah, and never took no guns away from them. Now, what if you had stole a candy bar out of a convenience store? They'd have chased you down in Mesquite and arrested you. If you got to Arizona, they'd chase you down. If you got into Utah, they'd chase you down. They'd have chased you down until they caught you and rubbed your head in the gravel. But they didn't. There was like 200 armed men with military-type armory walked right out of there and across 3 states and several towns and a bunch of counties, and they disappeared, and the media never even asked where did they go.
I can explain that phenomenon.
That is a phenomenal to me.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. It's called carrying water. Carrying water. I want y'all to remember that. And it's a product of controlled opposition. Now, what is controlled opposition? Controlled opposition is where our government has people that are in there that we support and rally behind all the time because they tell us that they're working for us. Now, if you're working for me, but bad legislation continues to pass time and time again, either you're lousy at your job, or I'm stupid to believe that just because you say you're working for me and I continue to take it up the rear and ain't nothing getting better, something must be wrong with me. But that is what we have. You got guys in D.C. that will say, you got your sheriff that will say, I'm working for you. I'm protecting your rights. But bad legislation passes time and time again. If a football player or a coach of a team of football players, if he continues to have losing seasons, that coach gets fired. Why? Because he is ineffective. We have had legislation after legislation after legislation, bad legislation, passed time and time again, even up to Obamacare. Yet they say they are fighting for me. They're not fighting for me, sir. They certainly weren't fighting for you. If they were given an order to disarm the
Hill, there was snipers, and high-tech cameras, all these roads, even this area here where we are, was closed areas. People couldn't enjoy our public land. And then they created, I call them big pits, signs on it. It said what? First Amendment.
First free speech area.
Free speech area. Exercise your freedom.
In the pig pen.
In the pig pen. So they had 2 little pig pens for us to exercise free agency. What they set us up for is when we got onto the pig pen over here and exercise free agency, now we're terrorists. now all of those laws, security laws, come into effect now because we're not abiding by it. They said inside compound up there where they had the army. Guess how many handcuffs they had? They had a couple of boxes of handcuffs with these plastic zip locks, and they were put them together. And there was a couple of boxes. They was figuring on arresting at least 100 of us.
There's a thing I call containment and control. Containment, put you in the pig pen.
Sure.
Control you with the threat of arrest or arrest. That's interesting because it reminds me of what they did to the senators and the congressmen that allowed the government to pass legislation that allowed them to spy on us without a warrant. What did they do? For containment, they told our representatives and senators, shut up.